There's a habit that costs nothing and keeps a car's interior looking genuinely new for years, without ever booking an expensive detailing appointment. Not a once-a-year deep clean that temporarily restores the interior before it slowly declines again. A quiet, daily habit that prevents the buildup from ever happening in the first place. In Japan, this approach is closely tied to something visitors notice almost immediately when they first ride in a Japanese taxi, an interior that looks and feels almost brand new, even in vehicles that have logged hundreds of thousands of miles. Taxi drivers across Japan have practiced this exact approach for decades, not as a special occasion treatment, but as a small, consistent part of nearly every single shift. Many Japanese taxi companies have long emphasized vehicle presentation as a point of professional pride, with some drivers treating their taxi almost as an extension of their own personal standard of care, regardless of how many passengers pass through in a given day. This is the story of a simple habit and the quiet difference between preventing wear and constantly repairing it after the fact. Welcome back. Every week we look at the small, practical wisdom that gets passed down quietly through generations and through daily routine, the kind of thing that just works, explained honestly. If this kind of practical knowledge is useful to you, subscribe and ring the bell, because what you learn today could mean never paying for a $200 detailing bill again. Here is the actual reasoning behind why this approach works so well, and why most car interiors decline the way they do in the first place. A typical car interior accumulates wear through several slow, compounding processes happening simultaneously, skin oils transferring onto surfaces every time someone touches the dashboard or door panels, fine dust settling into every crevice and fabric fiber, and ultraviolet light gradually breaking down vinyl, leather, and plastic surfaces day after day. Individually, each of these processes happens so slowly that it is almost invisible on any single day. But over weeks and months without any intervention, oils oxidize and darken, dust works its way deeper into fabric and stitching, and UV exposure gradually causes fading, cracking, and a general dulled appearance across every exposed surface. By the time most people notice their interior looks worn or dirty enough to justify a detailing appointment, months of this compounding buildup have already occurred, which is exactly why a single deep clean, however thorough, often cannot fully restore what has already changed at a surface level over that much time. Japanese taxi culture developed differently around this problem, largely out of professional necessity. A taxi interior is used by dozens of different passengers every single day, which means visible wear and buildup would happen far faster than in a typical personal vehicle if left unaddressed. Rather than relying on periodic deep cleaning to catch up with that faster wear, many Japanese taxi drivers developed a habit of wiping down key surfaces briefly between fares, using nothing more than a barely damp microfiber cloth and plain water, taking less than 2 minutes at each stop. This single habit interrupts the wear process at its earliest and easiest stage. Fresh skin oils wipe away instantly before they have time to oxidize and bond to a surface. Loose dust lifts away before it settles deeper into fabric or grinds against plastic surfaces underfoot. And because the surface is cleaned so frequently, none of it is ever given the time needed to bake into a stain or visibly dull the material. This is fundamentally different from how most personal car owners approach interior care, treating cleaning as an occasional event rather than a continuous, low-effort habit woven into how the car is used every single day. A deep chemical clean, the kind offered at most detailing shops, absolutely can restore an interior that has already accumulated significant buildup. But it works by aggressively lifting oils and grime that have had weeks or months to settle in, often requiring stronger cleaning agents specifically because the buildup has had that much time to bond to the surface. The daily habit approach never allows that bonding process to happen in the first place, which is precisely why interiors maintained this way can go remarkably long stretches, sometimes years, without ever needing that kind of aggressive intervention at all. Now here is exactly why this remained a specifically professional, largely unnoticed habit rather than common advice given to everyday car owners in most of the world. The commercial car detailing industry, worth billions of dollars globally, is built around the deep, clean as a service, a scheduled appointment, a specific price point, and typically a strong emphasis on dramatic before and after results that photograph well for advertising. A habit costing nothing and taking 2 minutes a day does not fit that business model at all, and there has simply never been significant advertising or marketing behind teaching car owners a quiet daily habit instead of selling them a periodic service appointment. Detailing shops are not being dishonest by offering deep cleaning services. Those services genuinely restore interiors that need it. But there has been very little incentive anywhere in that industry to teach car owners how to avoid needing those services as often in the first place. Think about every $200 detailing bill you have paid for an interior that seemed to look dirty again within just a few weeks of the appointment. Think about the dashboard that keeps looking slightly dull no matter how many times it gets deep cleaned, or the seat fabric that seems to hold onto stains more easily every time you have it professionally cleaned. All of it reflects an interior that spends most of its life accumulating wear uninterrupted, then receiving an occasional aggressive intervention, rather than being protected continuously through a small daily habit. If you have made it this far, you already understand more about why interiors actually wear down than most people who have paid for the same detailing service multiple times without ever addressing the underlying pattern. Subscribe and share this with anyone who has ever paid for a car detail that seemed to fade within weeks. Now stay with me, because here is exactly how to build this habit into your own routine, starting with your very next drive. Keep a single microfiber cloth specifically for this purpose stored somewhere easily accessible in the car itself, such as the glove box or a door pocket, so it is always within reach without any extra effort. Before starting the car, or immediately after parking at the end of a drive, dampen the cloth very lightly with plain water, just enough that it feels barely moist rather than wet. Since excess moisture is unnecessary and can leave streaking on some surfaces, spend roughly 60 to 90 seconds wiping down the surfaces you and any passengers touch most frequently: the steering wheel, the gear shift or console area, door handles and armrests, and the dashboard directly in front of the driver. For the first few weeks of building this habit, focus specifically on these highest contact surfaces rather than trying to wipe the entire interior every single time, since consistency on the most important areas matters more than occasional thoroughness everywhere. Once the habit feels natural, gradually extend it to include cup holders, the areas around window and door controls, and any other small touch points that tend to accumulate visible grime the fastest. For fabric seats, a quick pass with a soft brush or a lint roller every few days, rather than the damp cloth, helps lift loose dust and debris from the surface before it works its way deeper into the fibers. Roughly once every 1 to 2 weeks, spend a slightly longer 5 to 10 minutes doing a fuller wipe down of the entire dashboard, door panels, and center console, which is still far less effort and far less frequent than a full professional detail, but keeps the entire interior consistently maintained rather than allowing any single area to fall behind. Parking in shade or using a simple windshield sunshade when possible further reduces the ultraviolet exposure that gradually fades and cracks interior surfaces over time, complementing the daily wipe-down habit particularly well in hot, sunny climates. For leather or leather-like surfaces specifically, occasionally following the water wipe down with a small amount of plain, unscented conditioner, applied no more than once a month, helps keep the material supple, though this step is optional, and the daily water-only habit alone accounts for most of the visible difference over time. I need to be honest with you about one real limitation here. This daily habit dramatically slows buildup and keeps most interiors looking consistently fresh for far longer than they otherwise would. But it does not reverse damage or staining that already existed before you started the routine, and it will not address deeper issues like ground-in stains from spills that were never cleaned promptly or genuine wear from years of prior neglect. For those situations, an initial professional deep clean, followed by this daily habit afterward, gives you the best combination, a clean starting point and far less need for another deep clean going forward. For the vast majority of car owners maintaining an interior that is already in reasonably good condition, this limitation simply means the habit works best as ongoing prevention rather than a one-time fix for years of accumulated neglect. A rideshare driver in Chicago documented adopting this exact 2-minute wipe-down habit between fares in early 2022 after previously paying for a full interior detail roughly every 2 months at a cost of around $180 each time. 18 months later, he reported he had not paid for a single professional detail since adopting the daily habit, with passengers frequently commenting on how new his interior looked despite the vehicle accumulating well over 40,000 miles of rideshare use during that period. Japanese taxi drivers have practiced some version of this quiet daily habit for decades, not because it was ever marketed as a special technique, but simply because it was the practical, sensible response to keeping a heavily used interior looking presentable every single day. The commercial detailing industry built a substantial business around restoring interiors that had been allowed to accumulate months of wear, while the actual simplest and most effective long-term approach remained a 2-minute habit that never needed advertising because it was never sold as a product in the first place. If this was useful to you, subscribe and share it with someone who has paid for the same detailing bill more times than they would like to admit. We will be back next week with another quiet piece of practical wisdom worth remembering.